I decided to do a bit of a series on the Gottmans work, specifically the exercises that they use in order to help couples move through conflict, perpetual problems, how to communicate. The Gottmans are really all about achieving better communication in your marriage. And they do an excellent job of this. Their first book, maybe it's not their first book, but the one book that you probably have heard most about is The Seven Principles of How to Make Your Marriage Work. And it's the one that's most referenced. And in that book, they speak a lot about the Sound Relationship House. Now, you can't probably see it very well here, but I will link the PDF, in the description so you can actually take a better look at it and download it. But basically what they're doing is that they're using the analogy of a house and its different floors to describe the most important parts of your relationship. And it's actually quite brilliant because, for example, they talk about the floor or the foundation, I should say, the foundation of the house as being one of the most important things, right? Like what's your relationship built on? This is where, think back in the day of when and how you became attracted to your partner. I know myself, there's little moments in my memory which seems to fail me so terribly these days. But I still remember those moments where I thought, yeah, this is the guy. It's just it's why you basically love your partner. It's all the things that you should be focusing on most often during the marriage that, often wane away over the years. So think of it as, it's the foundation of the house is really what your love maps are. And over the years, because life gets busy, you sometimes forget, like I said, why you're with this person. But actually, what happens is you don't know the person anymore. You forget the person that you married because basically you don't ask enough questions. Do you remember things like if you were to ask your partner right now, what's their favorite band? Do the like if you don't often drive together, for example, let's say you don't commute together or you don't take long drives together, then you might not even know, like, do they listen to music? Do they listen to podcasts? Do they listen to the radio? What stations do they listen to? It's just like all those little things that until you maybe go for a drive with them, do you realize, oh, you've listened to that? Or whatever. It's just sort of like, how well do you know your partner? So building love maps, just the key takeaway to the foundation of the house is never stop asking your partner questions. And I don't know, I have a feeling that some women are thinking right now, are you kidding me? That's all I do is ask him questions, but he never answers. He never seems to have an answer for anything. He's like, whoa, whatever. But don't give up because I'm sure they're very fond of the thought of you wanting to get to know them better, right? It's using curiosity. I often talk about how powerful curiosity is in a relationship. So that's the foundation of the house. The next floor above the foundation is called fondness and admiration. Do you share fondness and admiration of your partner, of your husband, of your wife? Do you thank that person enough, right? Over the years, it becomes so easy to just take the person for granted, all the little things that they do. Or, for example, you love the way your husband plays with your children. He just seems to have this natural way of getting them engaged and playing with them. And you love that the first time you realized that and you saw that. But how often over the years have you thanked the person just for being like that, right? I think It's those things that come so naturally to the person that you just think, well, that's just the way they are. It's just easy for them. And then you think that maybe, well, I don't need to thank them for that. I mean, it's just who they are. But no, thank them for that because it is very, very meaningful to you. And if it's meaningful to you, then why wouldn't you want to thank them? So the key takeaway of that is making appreciation a habit. Don't take the person for granted. Okay. The third floor of the house, the floor above fondness and admiration, is referencing turning towards your partner instead of away. So, what the Gottmans mean about this, and this is really important, is okay, for example, let's say it's about making bids of connection. So, let's say you're drinking coffee in the morning and your partner is making themselves their lunch in the kitchen. Your partner says something like, man, I just not looking forward to the day. And you could, you could roll your eyes and drink your coffee and kind of go, oh my God, they're so miserable or whatever. Or you could turn towards your partner and say, hey, what's going on? Why do you feel this way? What's going on today? What is there something going on at work? Like in other words, don't like they made a bid of connection towards you. They're not talking to themselves. They're talking out loud, and it's their intent is to get you engaged in their thoughts. So don't ignore your partner. Just give some sort of little response, even if it's like, yeah, I hate Mondays as well, or something like that, right? These sort of like that's connection, just a little thing like that. So it's connection is not always, hour-long walks or 2-hour dinners. It's the Gottmans notice that it's the micro moments in your day. I mean, like how much effort was that to acknowledge your partner in a small moment like that? Seconds. And it doesn't require a lot of time to really solidify that connection that you have. The floor above turning towards and not away your partner, it's taking the positive perspective. So this is sort of like, after years and years and years of living together, it's very easy to presume and expect a certain behavior from your partner. And it's usually maybe not the most favorable. It's like, oh, I know what you're going to say next. Oh, I know what you're going to go do now. I know what you want from me. It's all these presumptions. Don't assume things about your partner that are automatically negative. Try to assume the positive. Try to give your partner the benefit of the doubt. Be open-minded. How they say people don't change. Yes, people do change. And if you're going to constantly just presume that, the most negative part about your partner, then you're setting yourself up for a really miserable life and a miserable marriage. I mean, the Gottmans talk about negative sentiment override, how that can sometimes envelop over the house. You can see this as a gray fog moving, you know, towards the house and just settling over the house, which means that, how can I describe this? Negative sentiment override. It's making let's say your partner just makes a neutral statement like the sky is blue. And you're like, oh my goodness, obviously the sky is blue, or like, tell me something else I don't know. Or, it's just sort of, it's like you'll take anything positive, negative, neutral, and make it all negative. And that will destroy your marriage very fast. Okay, the fifth floor of the house, and the one that most of my couples, come to me asking for help is managing conflict. That's the fifth floor. And that's let's just say that's the floor that takes up the most space in the house, right? Conflict is inevitable. And, sometimes, again, clients come to me saying, we argue all the time. I wouldn't be so worried about the number of arguments that you're having. Be a little bit more worried about the number of arguments you're not having. Just accept that arguing is healthy, natural, and it's going to be a part of your lives. But there's ways of arguing that are better than others. And of course, I'm talking about, aggressive behavior, emotional abuse. This is where the four horsemen of the apocalypse, come rushing in. Another thing that the Gottmans talk about, the four behaviors that can potentially end a marriage, and that is criticism, contempt, stonewalling, and defensiveness. Okay, I mean, I'll make another video on this, but if you use those behaviors when you're trying to express your needs and your desires, and your partner has different needs and desires, which is usually when conflict comes about, that's not helpful. And so, yes, this floor 5, it's all about not making arguments destructive and making them functional and valuable. The worst thing you can do is remain quiet, because then resentment comes in. Okay, let's move on to floor 6. And this is where it gets a little bit more brighter. Like floor 6, in the house is, now we're moving towards, you could say, the attic. Like, it's not that the higher you get in the house is necessarily, better, but I mean, getting a handle on your conflict and moving past that is usually reminds you of why you're together in the first place. So floor 6 is called making life's dreams come true. So as you can see, it sounds very lovely. And the key takeaway for this is that, marriage isn't just about daily survival. It's about building a future together. Example of this would be, let's say you're 62 and you've always wanted to open up a bridal shop. Let's say you've always been fascinated with weddings, and you love everything that has to do with weddings, and you love fashion, you love beautiful dresses, and maybe financially you've gotten to the point in your life where you don't necessarily have to work, but you've saved enough and you want to, it's just something you want to do. And so, like, one partner helping the other partner making their life dreams come true is such a beautiful example of two partners that truly love each other and want what's best for one another. So that is all about, yeah, how can I help make your dreams come true? Allow me to make your dreams come true. Okay. Now, getting to the top floor, creating shared meaning. An example of this would be, every Sunday morning, you and your partner have a lovely breakfast together or a long walk together. It's creating some sort of ritual of connection, something that's non-negotiable. I talk to my clients about this all the time. And it's not something like I kind of reference, maybe as the houses or as the floors go up, or we get to the attic of the house, it sort of depicts, maybe retirement or 25 years of marriage. No, that's not necessarily what I mean. All these floors are very important throughout your marriage, but maybe I reference more of shared meaning and vision at the end, because hopefully, in the latter years of your marriage is when you can kind of slow down, the kids are out of the house, and you might have just more time for connection and attaining that vision that you've had. But, It's the rituals of connection are always going to be super, super important. So even if you're a young couple, these hour-long walks or coffees or dinners or I don't know whatever's a ritual. Make rituals a part of your marriage, something that you can always count on every single week in a way of connecting with your partner. It's super important. Okay, so again, once you look at the PDF, you're going to see that there's very important supporting walls of this house on either side. It's called trust and commitment. And I think I've spoken a lot about trust and commitment in my other videos and my blog posts. If you go to my website, luellayoung.com, it's the supporting walls, because without trust and commitment, there's not even a point in me making this video. If you can't trust the person that you're with to have your back, at the end of the day, like these are these bids of connection, right? Like this is why you have this companion with you, so that you can trust them to support you on really bad days, or be patient with you, or forgive you. Yeah, trusting that they're going to uphold the values, that the real values of why you connected with one another, right, in the first place. I mean, we all have flaws and we're all going to make mistakes, but having that solid trust in your partner to come, on the other side of that mistake, or trusting your partner will forgive you, it's so important. And then commitment. I mean, I was listening to a podcast last night, actually, and it really made me think how the host said, I can tell you right now, there's no way that I will ever, ever divorce my partner. And this, the host I know comes from a spiritual background, a Christian background. And, I mean, the first thing that people bring up when someone would say this is, well, how about adultery? When your partner is committed infidelity, then what? I mean, none of us like to think that that's going to happen to us. So I don't think that's the first thing we should go to. I mean, I do see a lot of couples where an affair has happened, but I don't think that's not what the Sound Relationship House is, right? It's not about these outliers, you could say, in the relationship. It's all about the little things, like the Gottmans say, it's the micro moments. It's these little things that you do every single day, or you don't do every single day, is what's going to make that house a brick house, like solid. Like it's not going to waver with external factors that are happening around. It's honestly those little things. It's not those outliers. Sorry, I think my lighting is not the best. But anyway, yeah, I think anybody could say right now that even with adultery, I would never divorce my partner if they have that solid house, because they will get through that. It's going to be extremely painful for both. But if the house was solid to begin with, and you could say, well, how could that happen if you have a solid house? I don't know, but it can happen. And it can be just a really, you know, eye-awakening moment of how you that some of these floors could have been quite weak or slanted, and now it's your opportunity to fix that. Okay, I hope that helped. Happy to answer any comments that you might have, and if you liked it, let me know. Okay, thanks.